and every Thursday until August 19, 2021. Youth session will also be on Saturdays. For further information and reservation, please call 665-8601 or 466-5569. All COVID-19 protocol will be observed. These events are being sponsored by Nelson Spring, purified natural spring water, Wesk Agency Limited, the home of Lady B, Mark Twain, and the Sea Hustler, in St. Kitts VKN Kitchen. Remember, you can go from COVID stress to wellness.
Alone, do what's right, cause I love you, brother, my sister. And we're in this together, my sister, my brother. I don't wanna lose you, I love you too much, I think it's better for us, yeah, it's better for us, yeah. I don't wanna lose you, I love you too much, yeah.
Bless up, Dejo here, and I'm doing my part in the fight against COVID-19 by following all safety protocols and, most importantly, rolling up my sleeve for the vaccine. So I'm encouraging you to do the same, because that's our best shot of protecting ourselves, our family, and our friends. So don't wait, vaccinate. Let's roll up to roll out.
There's nothing good about jail. I don't want to be here.
My father told me that as far as he was concerned, I could stay in the home forever.
Our children deserve a chance for change. Children make mistakes, and child justice reform can help everyone to address these mistakes appropriately. Instead of sending a child to adult prison, let us give them alternative sentencing. We must divert our children from the court system through a holistic and systematic approach to addressing their offense and their road to rehabilitation. Rehabilitation helps child offenders to grow, change, learn from mistakes, accept responsibility, and make better choices. Reintegration of child offenders into the community after rehabilitation benefits the child, the family, and the community with a more productive citizen. Join the movement to give our children a chance for change. This message is brought to you by the USAID OECS Juvenile Justice Reform Project 2, funded by the United States Agency for International Development. For more information, log on to oecs.org/JJRP.
There's a danger in our region, causing problems that can affect us all. So my brothers and my sisters, we've got to come together as one. You see this Aedes aegypti mosquito, small but it's dangerous for some. Who would think that this mosquito would pose such a threat to our region? No, that's the virus known as Zika, plus chikungunya, and dengue fever too. Yeah, we got to partner together. We're urging everyone to do their part today, because together we could make it better. This threat we must eradicate. Everybody, do your part. any night or day. And we tell them to keep them away. Cause you don't want no breeding ground, so make sure you cover buckets and drum. Get rid of useless containers, those that make a like water. Ensure your drains are free flow. These are good things to know. We got to partner together. We're urging everyone to do their part today, because together we can make it better. This threat we must eradicate. Everybody, do your part right now. Do your part right now. We're urging everybody. Do your part right now. Do your part right now. Na, na, na. Everybody, do your part right now. Do your part right now. We're urging everybody. Do your part right now. Do your part right now.
Brought to you by Paho and Live Up. Love, protect, respect.
20 minutes moving away from the hour of 9 o'clock. We now, well, it's now time, I should put it that way, for our program Policing with You, sponsored by National Bank.
Stop standing in long ATM lines to withdraw cash. Use your national debit or black cards to complete a wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more. Shop online at the most popular websites and stores for quality brands using your national debit or black cards. And take back your time to enjoy all the things that you love to do. Remember, instead of waiting in long ATM lines to withdraw cash, use your National Bank cards today.
National Bank, always here.
Good morning once again, and welcome to Policing with You. In the studio with me this morning, I have Inspector Alwick Edwards and Superintendent Kwame Henry. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning, GQ. Good morning.
All right, so what's on the agenda for today?
Well, good morning, GQ again. And good morning to those of you listening via radio and or the internet. I am, as GQ said earlier, Alwick Edwards, Inspector of Police and the host for today's program, Police with You. GQ, this morning I have the privilege to introduce my guest, who is Superintendent Kwame Henry, who is a representative for the police force and the National COVID-19 Task Force and the NEOC. Please introduce yourself to listening audience, Superintendent Henry.
Well, good morning, GQ. Good morning, Inspector Edwards, and good morning to the listeners. I don't think I need to introduce myself. I'm here week after week. I think everyone would know me by now, but just want to say how happy I'm always to be able to impart some knowledge, educate the public. It makes our work easier, and it makes you more wiser.
This morning, we want to touch on the regulations that were disseminated by the government. It's Statutory Rule and Orders number 14 and 15 of 2021. This show will take its normal format, which is the introduction, question and answer segment, and closing. Superintendent Henry, two statutory rules and orders, what were referred to as SRNOs, were recently issued by the government. Number 14 of 2021 is the COVID-19 Prevention and Control Order 2021. What does that one speak to?
Well, the number 14 of 2001, as you indicated, it's a statutory rules and orders, and it's an order that is made by the CMO. They sometimes the minister would make orders, sometimes, as in this case, the CMO makes order, and she would have gotten that authority from the COVID-19 Prevention and Control Act. That act makes provision for the CMO to make orders in cases of emergency in the interest of public health, to make orders to protect public health and that sort of thing. So this particular case, this particular SRNO, the CMO would have made an order making certain restrictions to prevent the spread and to control the spread of the coronavirus. So it speaks to, in Section 4, Regulation 4, restriction on public transport. We know passenger buses, they're registered to carry certain numbers of passengers, in most cases 14 passengers. We know in those buses the seats are small. You may have 2 persons or 3 persons on a seat. Those persons would be touching distance away. The protocols currently require 6 feet distance. That is not possible in a public service vehicle. And so you have to go to the next best thing. And because the virus is spread by close contact with other persons, and because we've had evidence of persons who are positive traveling on public service vehicle, the CMO in her wisdom thought it best to restrict the number of persons who are traveling on public service vehicles so that you may have a little more space between persons. And so public service vehicles are only permitted now during this period to carry half of their regular capacity. So if you have a coaster that carries 25 persons, you're only allowed to carry half of that. And some persons would ask, well, what is the half? Is it 12 and a half? Is it 12? Is it 13? That is a debate that we have ongoing, but you're only allowed to carry half of the capacity of the vehicle. Another restriction that, well, of course, it also requires persons to wear masks, requires the buses to have their windows open, and it requires the drivers to provide sanitization facility for persons who are using the service, and for them to sanitize the vehicle after each trip. So these are specific requirements of the drivers or owners of these buses, and that is stipulated in the order. Another restriction that is in that order is the basically restriction on contact sports. Games like football and basketball and netball, those are sports where the players come into close contact with each other. And so we want to limit that type of contact. So those type of sporting activities are restricted at this time. And so those games would not be allowed. However, an exception was made, and it's also specified in the order, because there was an agreement prior to this particular period. There was an agreement between the government of St. Kitts and the football associations of Guyana and I think Puerto Rico to allow the playing of the World Cup qualifiers here in St. Kitts in June. And so we do not want to disturb that agreement, and so those matches would be allowed to continue. So that is the only exception, but all other football matches are suspended at this time. Again, those particular matches would be controlled. It's not like players are going to come in the country and play football and then go home. They're going to come in a bubble. They will be tested before they come. They will be tested when they reach. They will be tested during the period at regular intervals when they're here. They will be required to stay quarantined at a hotel just among themselves. They will not be allowed to integrate with anyone else. And so they'll be sort of operating within a bubble. They'll be transported to the football stadium. They will not be allowed to come into contact with anybody outside of their bubble. They'll be taken back to the hotel after the games, and they could only mingle among themselves. They cannot mingle with anyone else outside of their bubble. So it will be a strict bubble that they will be operating in. So it's not like they'll be just allowed to come in the country and operate at will. There will be some protocols that would apply to them in order for the games to go on. So that would be one exception.
You spoke about getting in contact with anyone else. So you're saying that there will be spectators at the game?
No. No spectators would be permitted, because let me read what the order says. No person shall attend sporting training or practice session of amateur or other recreational sport. So the restriction is also on persons attending the games. So there will be no spectators allowed at those games. So those were the main points, elements to that order. Oh, I think the closure of public schools, of private and public schools, those are also mentioned in this order, and they are closed from May 25th until June 8th. So that's a two-week period, and then of course at the end of that period there will be an assessment and a determination made whether or not to open or to further restrict But as the ongoing investigation continues, they would want that period of restricted movement of persons so that they could contain the current spread that we have. And then after that, we'll make a decision, or the CMO would make a decision whether or not to allow us to go back to normal.
Thank you, Superintendent Henry, for that comprehensive answer. Right. Number 15 of 2021 is the Public Health Restriction of Movement Regulation 2021. Tell us what that one is about.
Right. So number 15 now is it's an amendment. It's a SRO under the Public Health Act, and this one is made now by the Minister of Health. So number 14 is made by the Chief Medical Officer, and number 15, this order is made by the Minister of Health. And this restriction basically prohibits or restricts the movement of persons between a particular time, a curfew, so to speak. It places a curfew. Last year when we had curfews, those curfews were under the authority of the Emergency Powers Act, where the Governor General would have made orders as to, because a state of emergency was imposed, so he would have made orders under that state of emergency. We are not under a state of emergency. However, the Act provides authority to the Minister to make these particular orders whenever there's a need to protect public health. And so the Minister has made the order that persons' movement would be restricted from May 25th until June 8th, and this restriction will be between the hours of 11 p.m. until 5 a.m. the following day. So from 11 p.m. nightly to 5 a.m. the following day, all persons should cease movement outside of their homes. So you're only allowed to be in your yard and in the confines of your property. There are some exceptions, of course, because we know life has to go on. And so essential workers are permitted to be out. And the regulation defines who are essential workers. I think most of us would know who they are from last year during all those lockdown. Police, soldiers, custom officers, immigration officers, port authority workers, media workers, those group of people whose job requires them to be out. Medical workers and those sort of people. Anyone else who would want to be out during that period, they would have to apply to the Commissioner of Police for permission to be out. Let me back up a bit. I mentioned that the essential workers are allowed to be out. Now, you're only allowed to be out for the purpose of your job. So you're not allowed to come out to visit a friend at midnight because you're an essential worker. You're only allowed to be out if you're on your way to work or if you're on your way from work. And of course, you must have some ID to show that you are an employee of this particular establishment. So you must have an ID to show that you are an employee of the establishment you claim to work for. I know we have a website where persons would apply for permission. Those persons who want to be out or who think that they have a need to be out, they would apply through the police.kn website, and you'll get your permission the same way that you get permission for events. I know there have been some issues with the website because, it's first time it's being used for this purpose. We have the event section working, that was working fine. But the curfew module is new, first time it's being used. And so as we find issues, we are getting them fixed. So there were some issues at the beginning where we had it set to only allow you to apply 24 hours, give 24 hours notice. We recognize that some person might want to apply immediately. So we have to remove that restriction. One thing that I want to mention about it is that for companies, if a company has a group of workers that needs to be out, the company would make the application and list the workers within the application. So for us, that would be one application with 10 employees, as opposed to each employee making an application for themselves. That would be 10 applications that we have to process. So it makes it easier for us if the company applies and lists the employees and upload the employee information. You would have to upload the employee ID, either driver's license or passport or some government ID, and a photo of the employee, and some basic details about the employee: the name, the address, their phone number, their email address. The email address is important because the system would send their pass, individual passes, with the employee's name and photo to the employee. So rather than sending all the passes to the company and the company distribute them, we send it to the employees. So if the company lists 50 employees, once the email addresses are there and it's approved, each employee would get their own pass with their own name and photo that they would present to the police. And we find that is a more efficient way as opposed to having
a letter
or having each employee applying. We'd have to process 50 employees instead of processing one. So we only have to approve once for the company and 50 employees gets the approval.
Right.
If the 50 employees apply individually, we have to approve 50 times.
Yeah.
So it sort of make it more efficient for us.
Yeah. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
Right, yes.
Thank you, Superintendent Henry. Public transportation is an area in which there have been some challenges since we have been trying to enforce the health protocols that have been put in place. Why is it important for both operators and passengers to take responsibility for their own actions?
Well, generally, each person should take responsibility for their own actions. There is right and there is wrong. If you choose to do wrong, then you must take responsibility for doing wrong. Of course, if you do right, then we will reward you or praise you for doing the right thing. And so in the case of the passenger buses, each passenger is responsible for his own health. And the mask was intended, the wearing of the mask was intended to protect a person's health. And so the onus has to be on the passenger and the individual passenger and the individual driver for themselves to wear the mask and to follow the protocols. You know, in terms of the sanitization, the driver has that responsibility because we cannot expect the passengers to be wiping down the door handles or to be wiping down the seats because the passenger jump on the bus, sit down for half an hour or 15 minutes, however long the ride is, and he leaves. The driver's responsibility now is to ensure that the bus is sanitized after those passengers would have left the bus. So for the sanitization of the vehicle, the onus is on the driver. And for the wearing of the mask, the onus is on each individual, the driver by himself and the passengers, each passenger by themselves. Okay. So we will not give the driver a ticket for the passengers not wearing their masks, like we would do if he's not wearing the seatbelt.
Right, thank you, Superintendent Henry. We'll now break at this juncture, or wait for more sponsors. Upon our return, we'll open the lines and solicit calls in from the general public. Thank you.
Stop standing in long ATM lines to withdraw cash. Use your national debit or black cards to complete a wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more. Shop online at the most popular websites and stores for quality brands using your national debit or black cards. And take back your time to enjoy all the things that you love to do. Remember, instead of waiting in long ATM lines to withdraw cash, use your National Bank cards today.
National Bank, always here.
All right, welcome back. Let's go straight to the phone line and let's take our first call for this morning. Good morning, you're live.
Good morning. I was just listening to the police, and he mentioned that he wouldn't give the driver or the bus a ticket if the passenger is not wearing the face mask. But the thing is, how would a passenger be identified as not wearing a face mask by the police? Because once the police stop the bus, the passengers can put on the face mask. So they have to have people on the bus sitting in the bus, and so they are passengers dressed in civilian clothing, and they will be the one to ticket the persons on the bus if they don't have on the face mask. Otherwise, it will be difficult to catch the passenger because once the police stop the bus to check everyone can put on the face mask. That's how I see it. Good morning. Have a good day.
All right.
Morning. Thank you. And that is what we really, that kind of behavior is what we're trying to
That's why
discourage.
you're smiling.
Yeah. Because, I mean, as I mentioned before, the mask is for your own health. And so you should not put on the mask because you see a police or because the police says so. You should wear the mask because it protects you. And that is what we want people to think, to believe, that the mask protects you. Well, to accept that the mask protects you, and that is why you're wearing it. But we don't want you to, we can't put a police on every bus. I mean, the police will get fed up sitting on the bus going back and forth all day. And that's not the best way to use your resources, to put a police on the bus just to catch people not wearing the mask. We want people to accept it as their responsibility to wear the mask because the mask protects them. And you don't put on the mask just because the police is there.
Inspector?
Yes. So you're talking about tickets. In your presentation yesterday, you spoke about ticket and ticket offences relating to breaches in the protocol, health protocols. Tell us about that.
Well, for over a year now, we have been saying that the regulation makes provisions for persons to be ticketed for not wearing the mask and for other breaches of the regulation. The problem that we had was that the tickets were not printed as yet, and so we were using the time to educate and to warn and to admonish people to do the right thing. We now have the tickets, the ticket books printed. We have the tickets in hand, and so we think that we've talked enough, and so maybe.
So time for enforcement.
Time for enforcement. The officers were out this morning. The compliance team were out. They have the quota of ticket books, and we'll begin to issue tickets for persons who violate. And it's not just for persons not wearing the mask. It's for businesses that do not have sanitization facility available for their customers. Businesses that do not enforce the social distancing or physical distancing protocols in their establishment. Bars and restaurants, if you have 10 people around your bar counter that is only 10 feet long, that will be a violation because you're required to have a distance of at least 6 feet between persons at the establishment. And so if these protocols are not being followed, then the compliance officers or police officer may issue a ticket. It's important to note, though, that the fine for a ticket for not wearing your mask is $100. But the fine for the ticket for the businesses that do not follow the protocols at the establishment is $500. And so if you get a ticket every day, you having to pay $500 every day until you get your act in order in terms of enforcing the protocols at your establishment. So we want to encourage not only persons to wear the mask, but to encourage businesses to enforce the protocols at the establishment. You must have markers in the floor to show the 6 feet spacing where people must stand if they have to line up at the cashier, for example. You don't want everybody at the cashier line cram one behind the other. You must have markers to show where people should stand in the line. And if you do not have that, that will be a violation, and you expose yourself to a fine of $500.
All right, let's go to the phone line. Let's take this call. All right, good morning.
Good morning, GQ.
Morning, Dumpling.
Love you.
Love you too.
GQ and the police.
Yes, morning.
I am not bashing any police, but we have some police to put on the mask or just see them in the mask. I even just say, but how come I ain't going to hire mask or the police? I got ASP me one clothes and I got on my mask. What really going on here? So I have to check up on them too. You understand? And the next problem I have, sometimes you all have police somewhere, it's very cold in Harlow. But it's bleeding out of India. So if people got our mask and the driver ain't gone, none. You understand me? And police here and ain't stopping them. The crossing yard people will say, put on your mask. And they will point it at the police and all them kind of things. I have to do something about that. Mr. Henry, you all make a line down here for the bus then. Every Friday, it's not a way, slow down here. The bus them gonna come round. Sometimes the blocking up, like coming out like you to go out. You go on the right and some will go on the left. You understand?
Yes.
Sometimes the bus them can't get to go out on the left because the fact the whole road block up sometimes all the two bus deal. So they had to wait till them and the legs go out to try to go out on the road. You understand how I mean?
Yes,
and,
yes.
I don't know, the police them just one spot, like they're standing up one place, up to the top, come down and straighten up there where the real traffic be. Sometimes the people them can't get to go on and the pier to go run off the car out because down here, lock up every Friday. The police them have to be talking to these big man. This is Dumpling. See you.
Thank you, Dumpling.
We don't have any call at the moment.
Yes, we don't have any call.
At the moment.
Well, she's correct. There were some issues at the ferry terminal, and as she indicated, these bus drivers are adults. They know right from wrong. They know what they're supposed to do, and our police should not have to be running behind you. Tell you, don't stop here, don't park here. I mean, people know right from wrong.
We have another call. Well, 2 calls.
We'll take the calls.
Good morning.
Good morning. I got a few things to address.
Yes, sir.
One, the mask.
Mm-hmm.
The wearing of the mask ain't going to protect us. Dr. Fauci himself said the wearing of the mask is only to protect that person who has already got the coronavirus from his spreading it. Correct. That's what Dr. Fauci said.
Well, how do you know? How do you know if you have it?
Listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Then he came back and he's still telling you that if you wear the mask, it can protect you. Now, if you check in America, there are no masks. People are not wearing any masks. They're going about their business and doing everything. The lady came on the other day and said the vaccine is 84% protection. No, I don't see why we're taking a vaccine that is 84% protection and then I still could catch the coronavirus. Even if I fully vaccinated. So what sense, tell me, what sense it makes for me as a petition in St. Kitts to go and take that vaccine when it's not protecting me as the people is saying. And furthermore, there are so many things that is going on in St. Kitts and Nevis, knowing that so many people is falling down and dying because if you notice lately the death announcements have been high. And I just want to say, if anybody now pay attention to it, how are these people dying? How come so many people dying so fast? And most of them is elderly too. These are things I've been watching. And these are things that I've been monitored. And then, secondly, the third part I want to say, the United Nations have a document where they say for human rights, Section 18. I might not remember everything, but I know to a fact, whether it's a pandemic, whatever it is, no one can force no one or make no one take no vaccine. And these are things that is going on. CDC, Hartford, Rams, fire station, because I saw a video that came out from the fire station yesterday that this sergeant is telling the workmen them if they ain't take the vaccine, they ain't no work. Come on, when are we going to stop these things and stop pressuring people to do these things when it's against their right? If somebody don't want to take it, they don't take it. Who want to take it, take it. It's just as simple as that. And these things have been going on for so long here in St. Kitts and nobody's standing up for themselves. When we going to stop fool one another? When we going to stop kill out one another? Because I ain't seen no sense in taking that vaccine. That is not going to help us, you know. God who going to help us. The Almighty God. Vaccine not going to help us here. We're going to kill out our, we know that. Do the research. Look up squalene. If you look up squalene, they have squalene in some of the vaccine. That squalene oil itself will help swell up your bones in the body and give you serious pain.
All right.
And people are not talking about these
things. You made your point. I'll let them answer now.
Well, forgive me, Superintendent. Please be advised that this show was not geared to solicit person to take the vaccine. So I do not know. I was trying to hint you to tell.
I just wanted to finish this point. Yeah.
But this show is not geared to soliciting person to take the vaccine. It is we're discussing the statutory rules and orders.
Right.
So if you have
an opinion,
based on
we respect your opinion. But it's important to know that he said the vaccine do not help you and the mask do not help you. So I guess do nothing then. That is what he's suggesting. And we are here to give you alternatives and to say what the regulation says. We're not comparing ourselves with America. America have their laws that they have to follow, and we have our laws that we have to follow. Our regulations say that we must wear masks, we must social distance, we must hand sanitize, and we are here to promote those things that our regulations say. Vaccine, that is your choice.
Yeah, any more callers?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Let's go to the phone line.
Caller, listening.
I could get on the ear, please.
Yes, you can. Yes, you're live. Go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. That last caller, I don't know where he was going with them kind of talk. He sounds so ridiculous. God don't help them who help themselves. And if he wants to play careless, I know he don't have the corona, let he go around and play careless and get it and ask God why he catch it. Let he play careless. Who don't want to take the vaccine, don't take it. America got a law and saying it have the law. America got all kind of thing that when the people get sick, they could take care of them. Saying it don't have them kind of thing. So people have to protect themselves and other people. So here making no sense at all. People were dying before the corona. Okay? And people were getting sick before the corona and they were getting that. So when now people don't want to blame that they're dying from the vaccine or the corona, he sounds so ridiculous. Bye. Good morning.
Thank you.
Any more callers?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Caller, listening.
Good morning, you live.
Yeah, good morning, Jito.
Hey, morning, man.
Yeah, and to the officers them there.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, you hear people behaving? What we need to, what you need to do now, if them go up there, don't try it already, a back around can't dig in there. So, it's better to talk with the 12 minutes and like clear piece of land that a backer could dig, because man who dig well, when the corona started to demolish people, man can't dig enough. A backer young how they dig. So let a clear piece of land and get it ready. Yeah.
Well, we're here trying to prevent that. That is the exact reason for the prevention and control measures that we are here promoting. And if persons would simply comply and follow these simple measures, then there will be no need to dig any grave or have any backup doing that.
Inspector Edwards?
Any more calls?
At the moment.
Let me ask a question, Superintendent. So if I am with my family, my vehicle, my family, and I'm driving, the police stops the vehicle, would I have to wear a mask with my family? Because one household.
Well, no. If you're in your vehicle with your family, you come from the same house, you would have been in your house with the family anyway, and you don't have a mask in the house. And so there'd be no need to wear a mask in your vehicle if you're in your vehicle with your family. If you're in your vehicle by yourself, again, there is no need to wear your mask. But if you have some stranger in your vehicle, it is advisable that both of you wear your mask. But once you're in the vehicle by yourself, there's no need to wear your mask. If you're on the road exercising by yourself, there's no need to wear your mask. Even if you're walking on a road and you're by yourself, there's no one else around you, you could ease your mask off until you get in contact, in close proximity to other persons, then you put on your mask.
Thank you, Superintendent Henry. I just want to make that clear, because you know.
Before you ask your next question, though, we have a call. Do you want to take
yes,
the call? Good morning. You're live.
Good morning, JQ.
Hey, morning, man.
Good morning, sir.
We and Rico.
Morning, sir.
Just two quick questions here. I heard you mention about the bubble for the cricketers, right? For the footballers.
Yes.
You said that they will be in their own bubble. They work with the drivers or whatever. Who going to drive them? Local people or they work with their own drivers? Don't answer that one yet.
Okay.
Let me answer the next question.
Yes.
Get out of the line. The next one is I lost my train of thought there. I can't recall.
Call back if you remember. Let's tackle the first question first. Answer this first question, then if you remember, then you can call back. Okay?
Yes, no problem.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, he asked a good question whether or not the driver would be also, if they're going to drive themselves. Well, no, we would have COVID certified driver. The same process that we use for the drivers, the taxi operators to drive the high-risk passengers who come in at the airport from US and England and all those places. We're going to use follow that same protocol. So the vehicle would have to be appropriately fitted to protect the driver, and it would have to be approved by the Ministry of Tourism for that purpose. So you would have to be a certified approved driver with a COVID certified approved vehicle to do the transportation. Our local footballers would also be in quarantine, so they would be in their own bubble. so that there is no, after the game, the footballers are not going to be allowed to go home with their families. So they're going to be isolated from the rest of the public.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go back to the phone line. Let's take this call. Good morning, you're live.
Good morning, caller. Are you listening?
Hey, Rico.
Yes, morning.
I'll get back in. Oh, the next question was the simple fact about the permission that you have to get from the commissioner. You know, last year previously you had granted some persons permission and stuff like that. Would that permission suffice going forward, or
permission for what? Permission.
Make a new application to
permission for
to be out after the curfew?
Say that again?
Permission to be out after the curfew time?
Yeah, like for duties and stuff like that.
No, the permissions have an expiry date, and so you need a new permission now. You can't use the permission from last year, this year. The permissions are time sensitive.
There were permission that were granted that didn't have a date. It didn't have an expiry date.
But those would have been under the emergency powers regulation, and the state of emergency has expired. So whatever permission was granted under the state of emergency,
this new SRNO, you have to
apply again. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
That's what I wanted to be sure.
Yes.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay.
Thanks for your question, too, man. Let's take this next call. Good morning, you're live.
Good morning, Mr. Henry and Tito.
Good morning, sir.
This is Brody, a bus driver.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make it clear, we have no half a passenger. We have a half fare for children under 12, like I heard the officer on the radio earlier this week saying, right? My bus license goes 15 people. And I want to just go back a bit. Now, when you go to the supermarket and something costs $1.03, you pay $1.05. Now, how is it you have 8 people on the bus because you don't have no half a people, but yet the police will stop you and make you put out that passenger, and then you go now at a bigger disadvantage because you're already at advantage by complying with the task force to take 8 people, 7 people, as whatever you all say. So why you can't just give us the benefit at the half that we're talking about and say take 8? And it's a big problem here because the bus drivers in the terminal are frustrated and they're thinking all kind of things. I am calm. I'm trying to tell them that's not the way to go. So I want you to address that issue for us, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let me explain. You said that your bus licensed to carry 15 people. That 15 people include the driver. So your bus is really licensed to carry 14 passengers. The 15th person is the driver. So the capacity would be 14. And so you allow half of that capacity, which would be 7. So 14 passengers are permitted. So the bus will still be carrying 8 people. The 7 passengers and the driver. Just that only 7 are passengers. Just like how you can only carry 14 passengers. You cannot carry 15 passengers and the driver.
That makes sense. In my humble opinion, Superintendent, maybe you should have one-on-one with the bus drivers and relay that information. Because from what he's saying, there's a miscommunication there between the bus drivers.
They are including the driver as a passenger. So if the bus licensed to carry 15 people, they're saying, well, half should be 8. Half of 15 is not 8 anyway. But no, I think where the 7.5 passengers comes in, you would have heard earlier this week, the law allows for 2 children to be considered as 1 passenger. 2 children under the age of 12 is considered as 1 passenger. So I think the half would come in. Well, if you have 1 child, then it's a half a passenger.
Right.
Logic. But it doesn't mean that it's a half a person. Right. It's just based on the definition of the law. 2 children under 12. So if you have 6 adults and 2 children, that would be 8 people. But under the law, it only considers 7 passengers.
Understand.
Right? So the 2 children is equal to 1. So if you have 6 adults and 2 children, that is 8 persons, but that would only be considered as 7 passengers for the purposes of the law. So I think the officer would have used the 1 child as a half a passenger, not a half a person.
Clear. We're going to take a break, Inspector. If that's okay with you, we'll take a break, and then we'll be back. I'm going to extend the time, so don't panic. Sure. I'm going to extend the time, so at least we can entertain some more calls, and you get your point across properly, because that's what you're here to do this morning. All right, so this morning, shares coming to your compliments, National Bank.
Stop standing in long ATM lines to withdraw cash. Use your national debit or black cards to complete a wide variety of transactions at supermarkets, variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more. Shop online at the most popular websites and stores for quality brands using your national debit or black cards. And take back your time to enjoy all the things that you love to do. Remember, instead of waiting in long ATM lines to withdraw cash, use your National Bank cards today.
National Bank, always here.
I don't know what's wrong with Damien these days. He shouts at me for any little thing. He seems not interested in his friends, and he's up all night, hardly sleeping.
Is your child behaving out of character? Sometimes it means they're not coping. Try to find out what's really going on, and if needs be, don't be afraid to seek professional help. Mental health. Let's talk about it. A message from UNICEF and the station.
Hold on, stop. Think about the drink before you take a drop. Read up on the label on the back. They say science sugar low in fat, but don't be fooled by that. Drink some water, share some love. Tell your body you're sweet enough. Drink some water, share some love. Tell somebody you're sweet enough. Drink some water, share some love. Tell your body you're sweet enough. Drink some water, share some love. Tell somebody, yeah.
This message is brought to you by Lake Health and Wellbeing.
Looking for the best price on your third-party insurance? Well, look no more. The insurance company of the West Indies, ICWI, has the best protection at the best price with no deductible. What are you waiting for? Click, call 465-8753 or visit us at 1C Bird Rock Road or in Nevis number 22 Solomon Arcade, Main Street. Payment options available.
All right, welcome back. As we return, or should I say, as we go to the phone line, let me put it that way, straight to the phone, if that's okay with you.
Well, let me ask this first question, this last question first, and then we'll return to the phone
good.
lines. Right. What are some of the challenges the police have had to deal with since the latest COVID-19 related situation came about?
Well, our biggest challenge is getting people to wear the mask when they're in public. With respect to the curfew, we see that persons are really complying with that. We do not have an issue with persons breaking the curfew. Those persons who are out are persons who have a need to be out. We see general compliance, and we thank the public for that. What we notice, though, is that coming up to the curfew time, people tend to drive more reckless in their quest to get off the road before 11. We really admonish businesses to close at least an hour before. We don't want you to be closing at 11:15, and then your staff have to drive recklessly to get home before 11. The person should be off the street at 11, and so you cannot close at 11, or even 10:30 for that matter if you have staff that lives in the country. And then 10 o'clock would be a reasonable time. You close after 10 o'clock and you have an hour to close down and pack up and get home. And we're seeing a lot of fast driving leading up to 11 o'clock. We really admonish persons to avoid that rush. But as I say, the biggest problem is getting people to wear the mask and to basically keep the physical and social distance.
Yeah, thank you, Superintendent Henry. Any callers?
Yes, we do. Good morning. You are live.
Yes, I said good morning to the panelists, right? Everybody glad that this panic come, that to keep people bad. But looking at the officers, them, a gentleman called on the briefing and say that he went to government headquarters to pick up something, and 2 police were there to the back and have on the mask. So when you all is ridiculing us for the mask, you all is doing wrong thing too. And looking at the driver's license, you all say people got to get vaccination to get the driver's license. But all kind of things to put this vaccination. But God is in control of everything. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
You're going to leave that? You're not going to address that?
No, well, as I say, we ask our officers to wear the mask once they're out in public. And I think they recognize now that they realize the public is looking at them, they're going to wear the mask because they realize the public not letting them get away with it. And so we ask the public to, remind the officer if you see him without a mask, just give a gentle reminder, officer, wears your mask. Don't have to be disrespectful. Just remind him that he needs to put on his mask because we tell them that they need to put on their mask once they're in public. And so if you see it, remind them.
Good, because from what I'm gathering from that caller, she's taking it as if, well, you're the police and you ain't doing the law, you ain't doing what your summers do, so she's lumping you guys in the same boat as well. And in my boat, that's unfair because that's 1 or 2 individual. And I keep saying I don't understand when it became a reality that if you got 2 out of 20, you pass. It's 2 out of 20 was a fail.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how a few police officers. Everybody bad.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that you would address that and some reassurance, more or less.
Right, and we really want to reassure the public that that is not the position of the police force to accept officers breaking the law. We always tell our officers, you are enforcing the law, and so you must abide by the same law that you are enforcing. And whenever we meet officers who are breaking the law, we deal with them just as the way we deal with any other person, sometimes even more severe, because we have internal procedures that we follow when officers breach the law.
What's that department called again?
Professional standards.
Professional standards.
Officer
Yes.
professional standards.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So officers, they are held to higher standards, and so when you see breaches by officers, remind the officer gently, officer, put on your mask, but ensure that you have on yours. Because the mask is to protect each of us.
Indeed. Let's go to the phone line. Good morning, you're live.
Yes, good morning, JQ.
Good morning, Dio.
Good morning to your officers there.
Good morning, sir.
What the program is all about?
Well, is to educate persons on the new restrictions, the new SRNOs that were recently published, and to encourage persons to really comply with all the protocols that would help to get us through this period of uncertainty.
I understood. But there was a gentleman called in and he was trying to make certain points, which I agree with what he was saying.
But that was not the purpose of the program.
No, listen to me. The program is to educate people.
And the regulations.
And the regulation.
Correct.
But the gentleman was trying to explain certain things to we, the people in the Federation. Right?
I'm not trying. He did. No, hold on. No, you hold on. We did not stop him. He was just going over and over and over again. He made his point. His point was clear.
Right.
That doesn't mean because we stopped him in the end because he was going over and over that we did not let him share. He did share his point.
Okay, so, but what I'm going to say now, right? Y'all is talking about paying $100 for masks. Does you all know people illness why some people doesn't wear masks?
Well, the regulations make some provisions for those persons who have reasons not to be able to wear the mask. Your doctor.
Don't want to wear the mask, but people when they have on the mask, they get a little.
Sir, you asked him a question.
Help.
Can he answer the question?
Yeah, of the health coming out of your body into your mask, going back into your body, and that's why some people get a little frustrated. And when you are coming and talking about paying $100, I just see other people in government places doesn't have on no mask. And I don't come on the radio and say who I see from who I do not see. But I think you are going overboard. a little too much with this corona. Try and let people sit down and analyze for themselves what step they should take of doing something before they have to end up in front of the court. You have a President. Good morning.
Thank you, sir. Good morning.
My question to you, though, you asked a question and you did not let Superintendent finish answering your question. So, do you really want to hear the answer to that question, or you were just trying to make?
But I would
point?
say still, I hope he's still listening. If you have a medical condition that the mask aggravates, then you could go and see your doctor, and let your doctor give you a certificate, a letter, stating the reason why you cannot wear your mask. And if the police stops you, you present that letter to the police, and the police would have to accept it. Once the doctor exempts you from wearing your mask, then the law makes provision for that. But for those persons, we ask that you follow the other protocols to keep your physical distance from persons. You cannot be not wearing a mask because of your illness. And you're right in the thick of a crowd. You are high risk, and you'll be exposing yourself to more risk.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to the phone line. Good morning, you're live.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning,
Good morning to everyone there.
Good morning. Good morning.
A question concerning what Mr. Cummel said. What I have to say concerning the bus drivers, right?
Mm-hmm.
My thing is that if the passengers and the bus, I think the responsibility should go to the bus driver. For this reason, if the bus driver will do that, it will be much easier. In this way, he control, that's his business. He control who come in and tap the bus. Because if he don't do that, he's not going to go good. Because if you see people come in on the bus, and because they know, he will allow them to come because he know he's not responsible for them. So when the police catch up on them, that's the only way. And how often that will be. Because it's a lot of resources you got to put into this to monitor people. So I think if you are put it on the bus driver, that's his business. He controls who come on his business. Whether if they have masks, they know they're supposed to wear masks. They're not wearing the mask. He will say to them, listen, if you're not going to wear the mask, you cannot come on this bus. Because if he has to sanitize them, he should realize they don't have on a mask. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's why I think that it should go on the bus driver. You know,
could I ask a question? Could I ask
people are going to monitor themselves and they're not going to do the right thing.
Could I ask a question?
Beg pardon?
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
What if the passenger comes in the bus with his mask on, and when the bus turns off, he's sitting in the back seat and he takes off the mask? Who should be responsible?
That's what happens too. That's the possibility.
So who should be responsible?
Saying that because I think it will be easier if the bus driver control them, because then he will see that.
Is it possible for him to control the 7 passengers in the back of the bus not to see when they take off the mask? How is he going to focus on the road?
Okay, well, even if that happened, right, the next person to that person, right, then will realize that they're not have on the mask. I mean, I don't know, but I'm just saying that because I was just thinking that it's hard to, the police them had to monitor all this. It's a lot. It's a lot for the police. That's why I said that.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
So
but that's why we want to make it an individual responsibility.
Make sure they're not come on the bus, they don't have on the mask. Then it will probably be easier for you guys.
But they could take off the mask once they get in.
Yeah, I know, but you know, you just that you got to learn to protect your own self too.
That's the message we are saying.
It don't make any sense that you don't come on a bus and because you don't go on any bus, you just take off your mask.
That's the message.
And then know exactly what's going on.
Exactly.
You understand?
So that's why we want to put it on the individual to be responsible for his decision to take off his mask.
Yeah, I understand. But the reason why I come up with that, I said that because then when, say I go on and tap the bus, yes, the person inside have on the mask. And then when you look, I just say one or two take off the mask. No police is there.
Yeah, we get your point.
Maybe you might not see a police and the person on the bus with you.
We get your point. You
understand?
Yes,
that's
we do.
what I'm saying.
Yes, we do.
So, Mr. Conwell, you're doing a good job and keep up your good work. You hear?
Thank you.
That's a hard job for you, but you're doing it anyway.
Thank
you very much and have a good day.
Good day.
Same to you, man.
Let me ask this question before I go back to the line, though, because it's turning out as if this is how can I put it, a survey to find out what we should do going forward. Isn't this is what happening? Or
You mean whether or not?
in terms of the rules and regulations that you brought to the table this morning, as it relates to public transportation and
No,
and
it's not a survey. There's amendment to the there's adjustment to the regulation, because prior to this particular order, passenger buses were allowed to carry their full capacity, even though they were still required to wear masks and hand sanitizer and all of those.
So in other words, whether you get challenged or not, the law will still
Right, the
still
law.
in the still.
The
Okay, just
law-
want to
the
make
law
sure.
is there, and we enforce the law. So it's not a survey and to ask people how they feel about it.
Okay.
Regardless of how you feel about it, you have to follow the law.
That is the point I wanted to hit home.
Right.
Thank you for that, sir.
Yes.
We got some more calls. What do you want to do, Inspector?
Well,
Let's take two more calls.
Well, two more calls. I want to ask if I want to ask a question first. If I am a bus driver and I leave town with 7, should I, if all the persons disembark my bus in Sandy Point, I have to sanitize the bus and come back town, or turn around and come back town?
No, you sanitize before you come back town.
Okay, well, I just want to
your
make
journey. Once you leave the terminal, your journey ends.
Okay.
At your destination. So if your destination is Sandy Point, your journey ends Sandy
some
Point.
person will turn around and come back
And sanitize in town?
and then sanitize in town again and then come back.
No, your journey ends in Sandy Point.
Yes, I just want to make that clear.
So when you come back town, that's a new journey.
Okay. All right, so two more calls. You said then we're going to wrap it up?
Yes.
Good morning, you're live.
Good morning to everybody in the station.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
I agree with the caller just now about the bus drivers. They're responsible for people that come on that bus. If I can be responsible for 65 kids on a bus every year for 25 years, 7 parents, 7 grown-up on his bus.
When you say responsible, you're the driver or you're conductor? What are you on the bus?
I was the driver and I have no conductor on there. I was the driver and I controlled 65 kids.
Make sure they put on the mask. Make sure they put on the mask.
They don't, at that time they didn't have to wear a mask, but you know how bad kids is. Getting up, standing up, moving around and all these things, I was not allowed on the bus.
Okay.
If the driver in the bus, he's supposed to be able to look in his rearview mirror and see somebody in the bus. I stop the bus and tell them they either put on the mask or they go out. The driver is responsible for everybody on that bus, in and out.
Okay, ma'am.
We'll take our final call. Good morning.
Good morning, GQ.
Good morning.
Good morning to the officers them there.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Now you all got to be tough with your job out there in the field. Because we know this is COVID time, we got community spread now, and we got to forget, we got to teach you the ignorance we're going on, especially with some of those people calling in and talking all kind of ignorance. Now, no one got to tell no passenger must put on the mask. I believe that with what's going on in the whole world now, and especially with the community spread now, look at it. Up to last night, they're coming down on the bus, and everybody masked down. You don't have to be truthful. He had on a little more than he's supposed to carry. But everybody had on the mask because he was late and people want to go home really. But officers, you all get panaya peas and pads because Lysla, rules is rules in any part of the country, any part of the world you go. You got to obey the laws and the rules of any country you go. So you all do what you all got to do because people are out the ignorance but no this year that and no why be a mask and all kind of ignorance, but you all got to do what we all got to do. You continue to do the good with the CMO, the frontline workers them, and Mr. Henry, you're doing a wonderful job bringing over the information. The God bless you and keep you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Carl.
All right, that's our final call for this morning.
Anything in closing?
Well, I just want to mention, since I'm here, I'm seeing a few emails that are bouncing back. Persons who are making application for permission, whether for events or for curfew passes. We ask you to be careful when you're putting your email address. Ensure that you have the correct email address. Sometimes you might just type an N for a M, or you put .com instead of .com, or you forget to put on the com on the end of your address. these errors would cause you not to receive your emails. And then you will call us and say, well, I applying up to no me here nothing. We will not know what your email address is if you type the wrong email address. And the email will bounce back to us and we will not be able to assist you because we don't know what's your correct address. So please ensure that you have the correct email address. Otherwise, you will not receive any response from us because our responses are automatically sent by the system. And if it's the wrong address, the email is going to return to us and we will just leave it because we will not know where to send it. So ensure that you have the correct email addresses.
Thank you, Superintendent Henry. Jinky, I want to thank you for being the reliable moderator that you always have been and continue to be. I want to thank my guest this morning, Superintendent Henry, for being here. He is a very busy officer, one of the busiest I could say in the police force right now.
No, not busy, the commissioner.
Well, I'm seeing right.
You rebuke that quick, boss.
I want to thank the management and staff of ZIZ for always having us here weekly.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank the callers for calling in and sharing their concerns and opinions, experiences. I want to encourage persons to call in if they're feeling the need to call in and have questions. They can call in. We encourage that. I want to thank you all again and see you next week Thursday.
And please comply.
And comply.
Please. Last callers that we get there. I swear that it's the service that's going on here. The law is the law, people. Yes. Whether you like it or not, please comply. Please comply.
Right.
Made their sacrifice now. Tell me what you think about equal rights for all, everywhere. Say what you think, what you think, what you think, what you think about justice. What you know, what you know, what you know, what you know about love. Why all the segregation? All are but one nation. Oh, let us unite as one. Let us unite as one.
Hold on, stop. Think about the drink before you take a drop. Read up on the label on the back. They say it's sugar low and fat, but don't be fooled by that. Drink some water.